quiet time, and we will start with the Roundtable Gender Equality Mandates for High-Level Leaders that it is organized by Gender and Roles. Before we start, I would like to share with you a few housekeeping rules to make it smooth today. So please, even though we are a small group, keep your microphones muted so we don't have any background noise. Please be informed that the session is recorded and it will be displayed on Gender and Roles website and our YouTube channel. So you may leave your cameras off if you don't want to appear, and possibly change your name if you don't want to be seen. You may put your initials if you want. We will keep the questions and answers for towards the end of today's roundtable. So if you have any questions in mind, you may write them in the chat box, and we will make sure to pose them during the Q&A session. So a few opening words for the program from Lutz.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you here this morning together with us. This session is about high-level positions in organizations for gender equality, and it was set up on the request of one of our Gender and Roles partners who is interested in how to create this kind of position inside their organization. And this is why we have invited today these three speakers that have three different cases to present to you, and that we believe and hope will be inspiring for all of us here together today, and hopefully also for future interested candidates who will watch our recording on the Gender and Roles website. As Vasia said, the session will be recorded so that we leave a legacy also after our project. So I won't spend any further time on explaining what we will do here today, but let you listen to the presenters. So Vasia, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Lutz. Before we really start, we'll start with Heidi Mertens. Heidi is the head of the KU Leuven Diversity Policy Office, and in close collaboration with her team, the vice-rector of Diversity Policy, the Diversity Council, and the network of diversity teams, and she coordinates KU Leuven's diversity policy. The KU Leuven diversity policy focuses on two overarching goals: creating an inclusive culture as a basic condition for successful learning and career development for students and staff of all backgrounds, and promoting diverse recruitment and retention of students and staff by means of specific actions. Next to that, she's also responsible for the KU Leuven harassment desk. Moving on our second speaker, who is Professor Ester Cois, and has a PhD in Sociology of Gender and the Family. She is a senior researcher and permanent assistant professor of sociology of environment and territory at the Department of Political and Social Sciences at the University of Cagliari. She is a director's delegate for gender equality since May 2021 and president of Guarantee Act Committee at the University of Cagliari since November 2021. Her research interests focus on gender inequalities in the use of public space, on the processes of regeneration and social inclusion in urban and rural areas, and on gender and generational dynamics in the labor market, with a specific focus on the higher education sector and in family choices. She is currently involved in the Horizon 2020 research project SUPERA that has recently officially concluded, and she will actually present today her experience from SUPERA project. And this project was meant for supporting the promotion of equality in research and academia, which produced the first gender equality plan of the University of Cagliari, and is a scientific referent and PI on behalf of the University of the European Erasmus Plus project SMILE, which is about the social meaning impact through LLL universities in Europe in the Women in Leadership thematic area. She has been involved also on behalf of University of Cagliari as participant in higher education institution in the European project UNISAFE, which is about ending gender-based violence and gender-based violence and institutional responses, building a knowledge base and operational tools to make universities and research organizations safe, and as expert consultant in the project CASPER, which is about a certification award system to promote gender equality in research. Since 2021, she's a member of the National CRUI Subcommission for Gender Equality Plans. Since 2013, she's managing editor of the band A scientific journal, Sociological International Journal for Sociological Debate. And since 2015, she's managing editor of the scientific book series, Local Development and Territories. Last but not least, we have with us today Professor Amaia Lusa, who is an industrial engineer and holds a PhD from the UPC. She teaches at the Engineering School of Barcelona, where she's currently also one of the vice deans. Part of her research activity focuses on the design of methodologies and tools to detect and eliminate gender inequalities. She has participated in numerous research projects and she is the author or co-author of books and papers published in international reference journals. She works on gender equality issues since 1997, and she's one of the people that designed the first gender equality plan at the University of Politècnica de Catalunya in 2007. She was responsible at UPC of the GEECCO Horizon 2020 project that she represents today, which was for gender equality in engineering through communication and engineering. And she has been a member of the Gender Equality Unit and Committee of UPC since their creation. And without any further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and I will give the floor to Heidi. Heidi, could you please share your screen and start your presentation? Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. I will share my screen. Let me check again. Okay, I think, do you see this? Do you see a presentation or do you see a text?
We don't see it in presenters mode yet.
Okay, let me try again.
We can see it, Heidi, but not in presentation mode.
Okay, yes. Let me try again. I will stop sharing and I will just upload this again.
Thank you. No, it's not in presenters mode yet.
Okay. Let me take a look.
If you want,
from the beginning. Yes, does it work like this?
Yes, but we can see your notes. So if you can change from the display settings on the top left corner, swap presenter and view.
Like this? Is that better? Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not used to.
No problem.
Okay, so welcome everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share my experience from the KU Leuven University. First, I will present myself, and I will try to explain how we work at KU Leuven. On the level of gender equality mandates from a broader sense of perspective from a diversity policy. And what does it mean in a big university to work with all these different layers? And what does it mean to take accountability from different levels? And then I will explain a good practice we have on Gender and Diversity Vanguards who are part of our assessment committees. So I'm working for KU Leuven. It's a university in Belgium. It's a large organization with 16 faculties and 14 campuses spread across the Flemish provinces and Brussels. And as I said, because of that structure with the campuses and the faculties, it's very important that we operate a network structure that extends throughout the whole university. Since diversity policy also touches lots of policy domains, not only HR, for example, but also student services, our research policy, education policy. It's necessary that we work in an integrated way and that we take into account the different principles of diversity policy in each other policy domain in order to achieve an inclusive culture, because it's an overarching goal to work towards an inclusive campus. So that means that we really had to reflect on how we organize ourselves, and just having a head of a diversity office or a small diversity office is really not enough to reach these goals. So it really needs the engagements of lots of actors in the whole university. So to this end, diversity structures have been anchored in the organization at various levels. So I'm head of the Diversity Policy Office. What do? We coordinate and we maintain an overview of the activities at KU Leuven. We also have a strategic plan on inclusion, and we coordinate the different goals in a kind of roadmap. We organize a follow-up. So I'm lucky to work with really very good experts in the team, with policy advisors who communicate with other diversity actors, such as our vice-rectors, the councils, but also in faculties, we have our diversity teams. And so we have these experts who are involved in policy preparation and the development of university-wide vision and expertise, and who formulate advices internally and externally. And as I said, they have a coordinating role towards the strategic plan of diversity together with all those different actors. What an important thing we are doing is really to work on empowerment of stakeholders and actors, to work on raising awareness, and really also to work on motivation of all these actors who are so engaged, and to connect them. Actually, that's the main work we are doing in our office, because we also realize in order to be motivated to continue this work on the long term, we really also need to celebrate our short-term achievements and actions. So the fun factor also is part of a policy that can be important as well. So we all know, I don't have to explain that engagement and commitment from the top is so important. So we are happy to have our rector responsible for inclusive staff policy, and that we have two vice-rectors responsible for the broader diversity policy. So we have a vice-rector for diversity policy and student affairs on the one hand, and then we also have a vice-rector for international policy and interculturality together. So together they are a team on the level of the board, and they did build the strategic plan together with all the actors. So just to show you also on this structure I briefly mentioned already, we are still evaluating and still continuing by developing or making this better. But we centrally installed a diversity council, as you can see on the left side of the slide, who's advising the executive board and the academic council, existing of all the deans of the faculties. And we organize the follow-up and implementation together with the different central services, but also our faculties play a very important role. So each faculty has its own diversity team, as you can see, and the orange circles there. And each team also has some roles. For example, in each faculty board, there is a diversity responsible. Then we also have diversity promoters, and we have specific roles faculty contact points for students on education and student services. So these are in total like around 100 involved academic members and staff members in the university, and we try to bring them together and to connect them together and work together on our strategic plan. Yeah. Something new you can see also there is Gender and Diversity Vanguards, and I will try to explain a bit more on the role of those vanguards. Those vanguards are one of the actions of our gender action plan at KU Leuven. So we have university-wide gender action plans already since 89. Some of the action plans were there for like 5 years, some of the action plans 4 years. So every new academic board evaluated the latest plan and renewed actions and goals. And our current plan is focused on 5 lines of action: spreading awareness and implicit bias, recruitment and promotion procedures, gender balanced representation in leadership and policy bodies, work-life balance, and monitoring and reporting. And what we do with the Gender and Diversity Vanguards is actually, it's a kind of action we can situate in spreading awareness and in really playing a role in the recruitment and promotion procedures. So how does it work? The vanguards, I call them here, you can see G and D, because before when we started them, they were gender vanguards. And since last year, their role has broadened into gender and diversity vanguards. They are part of a broader policy on open, transparent and merit-based recruitment, such as, for example, other measures we do have, for example, is working with the biosketch and the effective research time. That means we have the aim to facilitate a qualitative and a holistic assessment. For example, if a candidate fills in a file, people are asked to report non-academic career breaks, for example, as parental leave, sickness, or just other non-academic experience, such as in the industry. So we really want to take into account non-linear career paths from, we know, women because of their motherhood and so on. We know it's very important to work on equal opportunities from that point of view. And also with the biosketch, we want to contextualize in the application, elaborate choices, strengths, career changes, ambitions, and so on, in order to have a more qualitative measurement of the candidates and not only quantitative. So this is just an example of a list of actions we are doing in order to create more equal chances for candidates. We are striving, I cannot say we have them all, but we are striving for gender balanced committees. We monitor the gender data there, and we have a Gender and Diversity Vanguard on each assessment and promotion committee. So that is really organized on a faculty level. So every faculty, when they write a vacancy, they organize a search committee, and the search committee makes a list of all kinds of candidates, and then they come together with the assessment and promotion committee. And in this committee of assessment, we have someone taking care of gender bias and so on, and that's what we call the gender vanguards. So these vanguards, they are full members of the advisory committee, so they are peers. They are not just added to the committee, but they were already part of the committee. They are trained in implicit bias mechanisms and supported by our office. What's important there is that they really need to network and intervision gatherings. So it's not a standalone job, but they really can share their questions and build up experience by sharing. And their work is really to guard diversity sensitivity in the assessment process. And therefore, they also have access to monitoring reports on diversity characteristics from their faculty itself. So they really know, okay, how many candidates, female, male, what about the different grades in the faculty and so on. So they have an overview on the bottlenecks of the career paths of gender characteristics, but also other diversity characteristics. So their role, as I already said, is they monitor the number of female and male candidates in each recruitment or promotion round. They guard this gender sensitive assessment, and we try to provide tools to do so. And they explicitly pay attention to implicit bias and gendered language during the process itself. And also they ensure that feedback that's given to candidates is constructive, gender neutral, and unambiguous. For example, if you say bad leadership, what does that mean? Leadership is such a big term. What do we mean by it? By making feedback very, very concrete and transparent, also in the assessment conditions. That's very important. So it's just a team of 15 full professors, committee members with interest in gender equality. Where did we get the inspiration to create that roles? So we take a look at our neighboring country, Germany, and we know in German assessment committees, they already had a longer tradition of participation of gender vanguards. It is really a standard procedure. However, the difference is in Germany, the position is rarely filled by a peer, and it's more frequently a deputy of the Equal Opportunity Service of the university, which can be compared to the work I'm doing in the diversity office at KU Leuven. And for example, at the University of Freiburg, they call that a Gleichstellungsbeauftrager. I don't know for who knows any German, but it's a kind of gender expert they add to the committee there. And was included in the behavioral code of the commissions. So we knew there from their evaluation that it's really a good policy practice. But also we digged into some research, and for example, the research by Alexandra Kalev and her team, there we could get an overview on diversity practice and its effectivity. And what did we see there? That least effective is just organizing diversity bias training. Or mentoring and networks has a rather modest effect. But what is really effective are structures that are embedded, structures that embed accountability, authority and expertise, and that really makes other practices more effective. So that's why we really did choose to appoint peers who are already part of the committee to take up that role and to train them. So it's an existing practice we really could embed from an expert view in the committees. So we thought it's a better way, even a better way to work with peers than to add external persons. But there the challenge is how can we support them in order that they really can build up expertise. So what did we do? It exists from 19 now, so it's 3 years now. We also had evaluation. So in the startup phase, we did learn that it's really important that those members were appointed by the faculty leader and chairs of the assessment committees, that they selected the gender vanguards themselves. And we really also needed to support and the involvement of the university leaders and the faculty leaders themselves. We organized trainings with gender experts, and we had an evaluation afterwards. And we could see that we really need to focus on regular updates on policy and data, this exchange with other vanguards, really concrete support and onboarding for new vanguards, training opportunities, and recently broadening perspectives. The gender vanguards actually asked themselves, they said it's strange only to focus on gender in these committees. It's so important also to focus on other perspectives and also to take into account the intersectional perspective. For example, to pay attention to international women profiles, for example, from southern countries, and to take into account barriers they could face. So not just focus on gender in general. Yeah. So yeah, that was a question for us also to organize more training and specialized training and share tools in that sense. So what are the results? I think we can be proud of the work of the gender vanguards, but we are not there yet. What do we see? Women are 30% of the candidates of academic positions, but 40% of the recruitments. So we still face a lot of challenge in really attracting female candidates. So we really have to work on our search committees as the next step. We see that there are more equal chances at promotions for men and women. And the vanguards testify that their presence really make a difference, that it increases awareness among all committee members, and it really brings a gradual cultural change. And then in the next step, we added the vanguards in our whole structure of diversity network. So they also have an overview and we connect them together with other diversity actors in the university. So what are our challenges then? Here you can see the figure, one of the famous scissors we all use to monitor the different degrees per career stage at KU Leuven. What we see is that we really need to focus on the applicant pools, the importance of earlier career stages and the search committees, so before the selection committee. How can we work from gender bias to general implicit bias, but without losing our specific focus on gender as well? So that is a challenge. We also see huge differences across disciplines. As we know, if we have lots of male master students in specific education programs, it can be difficult to raise our number for on the PhD level, for example. But then we also need to focus more on the international recruitment from countries, for example, from engineering technologies where they have more female candidates. And of course, we also really did see the effect of COVID-19 in productivity. So that is really something we have to monitor closely for the coming career stages of our young female academics. So I just also did make a list of useful tools and resources. We are also spreading together with our gender and diversity vanguards. The first one is really interesting. Maybe you already know this. It's a video developed by CERCA that made a difference in mitigating gender bias in the ERC research panel evaluations. And then you can see a list of checklists and toolboxes that are used by our vanguards. And finally, I just would like to share some suggested readings, where we really based our experiences and our policy upon. Okay, I hope I was not too much over time, but I will end this presentation now, and I'm looking forward for questions and feedback after the other presentations. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heidi, for your presentation, and everyone should be able to post any questions in the chat box now after you presenting. If you could please stop sharing your screen so we can move on with the presentation of Esther, and we will share more during the Q&A. Thank you. Thank you, Esther.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ester Cois. Thanks a lot for your introduction, Vasia. And I'm the Rector's Delegate for Gender Equality of the University of Cagliari. Today, I will talk about my experience in this role as Gender Equality Delegate at my university, as a long journey, step by step, as the title says, and how this journey started at first in a somewhat uncertain way, as in a long collective marathon, and then as a solo runner at the intersection of two main paths and processes. Sorry. The first path is my academic career at the University of Cagliari. The University of Cagliari is a medium-sized university with about 25,000 students, over 1,800 among teaching and administrative staff, 6 faculties, 15 departments, located in Sardinia, which is an island in the center of the Mediterranean, as you can see from this map, and that just 2 years ago turned 400 years old. So the second path, the second process is my involvement in the core team of the SUPERA project, in which I was involved thanks at the beginning to my previous skills in gender studies as a sociologist. This was because it's just finished a 4 years European project, Horizon 2020, and the name is SUPERA, supporting the promotion of equality in research and academia. And so the University of Cagliari as a partner, together with the other universities of other European countries indicated in this slide, and which had as its main objective and output to accompany each university of the consortium and the 2 research funding organizations involved, the Autonomous Region of Sardinia and the Ministerio de Ciencia y Innovación y Universidades de España, in the creation, step by step, of their own gender equality plan. The midway point at the intersection of these 2 paths was the design and the approval of the first gender equality plan of the University of Cagliari, in which among the 32 strategic actions envisaged, the creation of the position of the Rector's Delegate for Gender Equality in 2020. And here it is, our Gender Equality Plan, approved by the Academic Senate in July 2020, which is our main operational tool for dealing with gender inequalities in all areas of research, education, and vocational training at the university, and our principal participatory planning tool aimed at involving all members of the university, teaching staff, technical administrative staff, and students in promoting gender equality. The collective construction of our GEP along this 4-year project path, from the phase of gender analysis of the current situation to the design phase of the plan, and now to those of its implementation, monitoring, and continuous improvement, led to the definition of 32 strategic actions focused on 4 key areas identified by SUPERA project in line with European guidelines. The first one is recruitment, career progression, and family work balance policies. The second, leadership and decisional processes. The third, gender dimension in research and teaching. And the fourth, gender stereotypes, fight against sexism and sexual harassment. The following year, in 2021, the rector changes. A new governance team was appointed, and I was chosen and appointed as the first delegate for gender equality of the University of Cagliari. This is the screenshot of the strategic actions devoted to this role. And this is the screenshot of our website with my page as a delegate for gender equality. And these at the bottom are some titles of the local press about the introduction of this very new figure in the governance of our university. And the titles are very similar. University of Cagliari, the vice-rectors have been appointed, and there is the delegate for gender equality. But what does this position consist of? First of all, is a new role. For the first time, the University of Cagliari introduced in its organizational chart this position as a part of its strategy towards a more inclusive university. And the delegate, that's me, with the red arrow here. The rector is Professor Francesco Mola. The others are other pro-rectors, vice-rectors. And I'm the contact person about the promotion of gender equality and diversity and the fight against any kind of gender-based discrimination for all the populations at the university, academic and research staff, technical and administrative staff, and the students. Maybe you can recognize Luigi Raffo, who was, that is another vice-rector for international projects, and he was the principal investigator for our university of the SUPERA project. And this is not only a new position, but it's also a new practice with two main responsibilities: the connection and coordination between the strategic actions identified by the Gender Equality Plan, aimed at the promotion of a better balance between men and women in their career path and in teaching and research contents. And the second role, the second function, is operatively monitoring and securing the implementation of the inclusive policies already undertaken by our university, also by using other tools apart from Gender Equality Plan, such as the gender budgeting and the plan for positive actions. And with regard to the institutionalization of this role, of this position, the delegate for gender equality, there are two aspects to be considered. The first one is the formalization of this position in terms of its regulation. So it's a formal introduction in the main university documents of this position as a top position, as an office, as a stable component of the governance team dedicated expressly to improving the decision-making processes from a gender-sensitive perspective. This is the decree from by the rector that appointed me as a delegate for gender equality. And the second aspect of this formalization was focused on the visibility of this new role. So the definition of a role corresponding to the principle of gender mainstreaming as a cross-sectional dimension to all areas of the new strategic plan of the University of Cagliari. And the second aspect of this institutionalization is its operationalization in terms of stabilization of the role. And the focus is to integrate and give continuity to the functions of the work carried out by the previous core team of SUPERA project that is finished now, plus the hub that during the 4 years of the project led to the drafting and approval of the JEP. So the delegate collected the collective work that was done by the core team and the hub, and the synchronization. So define an operational chain that links the development of research on gender and and diversity issues, thanks to the Center for Gender Studies that will start its activity in September 2022 with the promotion of organization well-being in the university inside the Guarantee Committee for Social Inclusion. I'm also the president of this committee. And the other aspect of this new position is the strengths of this new practice are based on its transversality, because as the delegate for gender equalities, I am the witness of the strategic and permanent commitment of UNICA in favor of gender equality between all its three main functions in the research, production of scientific knowledge in the education, teaching cultural content and developing critical thinking about gender issues, and its third mission, so the participation in the public debate on citizenship, human rights, democracy, and so on. With what lessons I've learned during the first year of my position as a delegate for gender equality. Three topics. The first one is related with planning, the importance of medium and long-term work plans on objectives that are measurable to spread an effective cultural change, the need to promote an awareness of the relevance of gender issues through bottom-up participatory strategies, and the resilience, the ability to recognize the resistances in order to find effective methods to counter them, for example, like co-working techniques, training, mentoring practices, and so on. And what are the challenges I've met during this first year as a delegate? The first one is to seize the opportunities of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan and of the new European research funding programs to strengthen our participation as a university in international networks, other international networks, for the promotion of diversity and gender inclusion. The second one is focused on our policy on these topics. So taking into account the impact of the post-pandemic and now geopolitical and socioeconomic crisis, which has worsened the gender gap also in the university and in research fields. So the need to pass from the glass ceiling index to the glass door index. And the third one is the need for a better dissemination of our results, using the expertise learned thanks to the SUPERA project to become a benchmark at the national level. And indeed, our gender equality plan has been chosen by the National Commission of Italian Rector as an inspiring practice for all Italian universities. As you can see from this book, that is the guidelines for the elaboration of gender equality plans in Italian universities, that is strongly inspired by our gender equality plan. And what was the role of the SUPERA consortium in defining the functions and my expertise as a new delegate for gender equality? It has been a long and adventurous journey during 4 years, thanks to the constant comparison between specific cultural context, the sharing of positive models, but also of a risk that all partners faced during the work together. The learning of techniques and strategies to be used for the implementation of the actions of the GEP, especially for the establishment of this top figure that already existed in other universities, and the sharing of global and local challenges with the techniques of co-learning and mutual support. And what was the role of the Horizon 2020 program? It was a positive action because now Gender Equality Plan is an essential requirement for eligibility for research funding in the European framework. And it allows us and me as a new delegate to open the borders beyond the perimeter of the university from the national level to increasingly and productive European partnerships, like, for example, SMILE, UNICEF, Casper, EDUC, and other platforms with a multiplier effect of our reputational capital about a university involved in this kind of issues. And with regard to the principles of the SUPERA project, what is the role of the delegates in order to realize, for example, the cumulativeness principle? There is a diachronic vision, the strong impulse given by our previous and our current rector for the creation of the first gender equality plan of our university have constituted a great endorsement for the introduction of this office and its recognizability inside and outside the university. Maybe too much because I'm very busy at the moment with some presentations, public meetings and so on, and an organizational functional integration, because there is the coincidence of this office, the Delegate for Gender Equality, with the already existing presidency of the Guarantee Committee for Social Inclusion and the creation of the above mentioned supply chain coordinated also by the Office of the Delegate between the University Center for Research on Gender Issues and the Gender Information Management System, announced formally from May 2022, and that will be operational from September 2022. The second principle is that of inclusiveness, the coordination monitoring of the GEP strategic actions along the 4 key areas included in the GEP give the responsibility of a full coverage to the delegate with a connective orientation in a participatory and intersectional way to promote not only gender equality, but diversity in all its expressions. The third is in the innovation, the GEP, together with a new plan for positive actions, both coordinated by the delegate, and the new strategic plan, where gender equality is a cross-sectional area, design a path of medium long-term institutional change, and the introduction of this role as a top position in the infrastructure of the University of Cagliari has been an outcome of super effectiveness in providing training, capacity building, and continuous support throughout the project's execution. And the last principle is that of sustainability. The integration of the gender equality plan actions coordinated by the position of the delegate for gender equality has been included in the 2022-2027 new strategic plan currently under drafting of University of Cagliari. Is a very strong point of the currently ongoing application for the program Human Resources Strategy for Researchers with the full involvement of the Delegate for Gender Equality. And it has the idea to create a specific section of UNICA official website focused on the gender equality issues and activities in coordination between another vice-rector, the vice-rector for communication. So this story of this path, this journey, is also the story of 3 different uniforms or habitus, to quote Bourdieu, corresponding to as many roles I have assumed at the same time as a delegate for gender equality at the University of Cagliari. A new top position in the university governance, but I'm also a sociologist focused on gender studies since 2001. And I'm also a researcher, so an insider in the university organizational routine. From the first point of view, as a new top position of the university governance, so at a macro institutional structural level, this has been and is a great organizational challenge with some critical issues. The absolute novelty of this figure, so the need to find inspiring good practices in other contexts, thanks also to the other partners and SUPERA project, the transversality of this role with respect to all the functions of the university strategic plan, so the need to incorporate a gender mainstreaming approach, and it's my permanent integration as a coordination hub between all university policies, the past ones and the future ones, from an intersectional perspective. This is a very time-demanding multitasking approach, which requires a very rich multidisciplinary expertise, and I'm just learning step by step. The second role in a meso-scientific frame level, as an expert in gender equality, I have a PhD in gender studies and 21 years so far of teaching and research on these issues, with various international projects in progress on this subject. And this role, this position, has been an analytical and methodological test bench on my disciplinary levels with some topics. The definition of the better definition on some theoretical paradigms, from gender equity to gender equality to equal opportunities to intersectionality to the promotion of diversity in a more general perspective, the integration of the gender approach beyond any horizontal disciplinary segregation, for example, in STEM areas, and its reflexivity, how to support this cultural change breaking into the practices of such a complex and old organization like the university is, what impact in the short, in the medium, and in the long term on the organizational well-being of all university population, because I'm also at the same time the president of the Committee for Social Inclusion and Well-being at the university. And the third t-shirt in my solo run at the moment is at the microbiographical career level, on a personal level. It's a very interesting autoethnographic experiment, like a test, a participatory observations with many resistances so far, because I'm a woman. And so there is in my university a widespread bias, gender issues as women staff, so a residual topic in university policies so far, but not anymore. The second resistance is the link to the fact that I'm an insider in the mechanism of access and career progression. So I'm also on the other side of the action plan as a case study. So it's very self-referencing this position. And I'm an anomalous figure in terms of power, visibility, and authority, because I'm not a full professor. I'm just a researcher, but with an expertise recognized as a member of the core team of the SUPERA project before, and as a member of the National Commission of the Ministry of University for the Gender Equality Plan. So, to conclude, this is a journey step by step, but more a starting than an arrival point. What am I learning thanks to this journey with 3 different running t-shirts? To keep up after the first uncertain steps in order to understand better and better how to move on different paths and with these very different roles, to manage visibility, both in political tasks of institutional representation, both as a key speaker, for example, evaluated and assessed in my own scientific community, and as a worker in a public organization with an ongoing professional career, because I'm in the middle of my career, so the path is very long. And to not be overwhelmed by such a powerful and time-demanding personal and professional experience, which requires an accurate balance between institutional functions, informal interaction with all the population of UNICA, the investment from the rector to the students, the investment in my personal reputational capital, learning by doing practices exchange in national and international networks like Sister Project and so on. So a long journey in which these 3 different t-shirts are the sign of a path that has just started after about a year and of a destination still to be reached and overcome. Thanks for your attention. And these are the link to the SUPERA project. It is still open as a website. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Esther, for your comprehensive presentation. And after we learned all about the Gender and Diversity Vanguards and the Gender Equality Delegate, we now have the presentation of Professor Amaya about the creation of a vice-rectorate for social responsibility and equality at the Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya.
Thank you very much. Do you see my screen and hear me well?
Yes, everything works perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will talk about the creation of a vice-rectorate for Social Responsibility and Equality at the Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya. And to talk about this issue, I will explain a bit our history regarding gender equality at UPC and how we reached this point. Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya is a public institution of research and higher education in the fields of engineering, architecture, science, and technology. We are in Catalonia in 7 different cities, but most of our schools and faculties are based in Barcelona, also the headquarters, I mean. We are quite a big university with almost 30,000 students, more than 3,000 teaching and research staff, 2,000 staff from the administration, 18 schools and faculties. So we are quite big. And we have 3 characteristics that are important also for gender equality. The first one is that we are public. So this means that we must follow the rules of public universities, especially regarding recruitment, promotion. So it's just that we have to take this into account. We can do things, but we are not completely free, of course, which is also okay. And the second one is that we are in the STEM field. So this is characterized by being a male field with very few women still. And the third one is that we are a big institution with many campuses, so it's not really difficult to reach all the schools and all the departments and etc. Here you have some data regarding gender at our university. This is the enrollment in bachelor's and master's degrees, and we can compare the academic year 16-17 and the last one, 2021. I choose the 16-17 because this was when we start the GEECCO project in which we participated. So we can see also that we have had some progress since we started our participation in the GEECCO project. You can see that in almost all fields, we don't have gender balance. I mean, the percentage of women is still low. But for example, during the last years, in the informatics engineering field, we have passed in 5 years from almost 10% of women to almost 14%. So we can see that something is changing. Regarding the academic staff, we don't have the typical scissor figure because we already start from a very imbalanced situation. The first figure is the part-time. Part-time are professionals that are working in other companies or institutions and that do only teaching duties at the UPC. They don't do research. Then the grade D, C, B, and A are full-time positions. Grade A is the full professor. Grade C would be grade B would be the associate professors, and grade C would be lecturers. Grade C is a temporary position, and grade B is already permanent. And what we can see is that, of course, it happens the same as in other universities. That is, when you reach the higher positions, the percentage of women drops dramatically. But we can also see some improvement during the last years. Here we are comparing also 2016 with 2021 with data from April 21. And if you look at the grade A, which is full professors, we can see quite a big improvement in few years. And this is due from one side because we had many years without promotions to full professor because of economic problems, I mean. And so we have had men, full professor men, being retired. So this means that the percentage of men goes down also because we have less men, but we also have a more transparent process. I mean, in the old times we had like an appointment process, and now we have a very regulated process and very transparent. And also we have included in the last years affirmative or positive actions that have increased the number of women reaching the full professor category. And the last one, data is regarding decision making. And we can see in the last years some improvement. For example, in the vice rectors, we have passed from 37% of women to 50% of women in this is 2021 is the last election we had of rector and his team. And we have some improvements also during the last years in the direction of schools and faculties. I mean, the third part of the schools are directed by a woman now. Instead, if we look at the departments, we don't have an improvement. We have less women actually leading departments. And I think that this can be explained because the direction of a school has more to do with teaching duties in a general way of speaking, while the direction of a department has more things to say regarding recruitments and promotions, etc. So at the end, they have more power towards the academic career, and this still is very imbalanced. How has been our history regarding gender equality? UPC started in 1996 to worry about the number of women or the female students. We had very few female students, and the university started to worry about this and implemented a program that it was called the Women Program that aimed at increasing the number of female students, but it didn't have an important impact because it was basically receiving some secondary school female students and making some activities, but we reached very few female students, so the impact was not clear. So in 2000 this program was closed because it required quite a lot of resources, and no relevant impact was seen. Then in 2007 the Equal Opportunities Committee was created. At that time, it covered both gender equality and disability. And in 2007, we designed and implement our first gender equality plan. Actually, I was one of the members of designing this plan. And I must say that at that time, we didn't have and we didn't know tools for doing it in a systematic way. And it was a quite too ambitious plan. So we end up with a plan with many actions, and most of them were not implemented. Also, there wasn't a formalized monitoring of this plan. So we were still starting to learn about this. In 2013, we designed our second gender equality plan, still covered both disability and gender equality. And this was a participatory process. So the communities, both teaching and research staff, administration staff, and students were invited to participate in the design of this plan. So which is I think a very positive way to proceed. And since the second gender equality plan, all the following plans have counted with the participation of the community. In 2016, we had our third gender equality plan, and this plan was gender focused. I mean, here we separated the areas of disability and gender equality. 2015, we created the equality unit that must exist by law. While we were on our third gender equality plan, we started our participation in the GEECCO project, which has fostered gender equality at our university for sure, and has been really, really useful. And we have just approved our fourth gender equality plan, which covers from this year to 2026. The strategic lines of this fourth gender equality plan are gender equality in the culture of the university, because we have a male culture at our university, because the tradition is a very male dominated field and university. So we will work on this line. The second one is gender equality in decision making, to increase the number of women in decision bodies, and also to include the gender dimension in decision making. The third one is gender equality in academic and professional careers. The fourth, attract more female students to the UPC, because we are still far from having a balanced situation. The fifth is gender dimension in teaching, research, and management, so including gender dimension in all our activity. The sixth one is the prevention of violence and harassment. And the last one we included also as a strategic line is the monitoring and the evaluation of the impact of the gender equality plan. An important point at our universities is how we organize the gender equality. We are a big university, so we need to organize gender equality in a way that from one side we reach all the different schools and departments. So we reach all the people, because we are very diverse. We have a lot of dispersion in our university. So we need structures to reach all the campuses, all the schools, faculties. And also we need a good balance between a top-down and a bottom-up approach. And I think that with the organization we have now, we have reached a situation in which this is possible. We have a vice-rector that is responsible for gender equality policies. Then there is a gender equality office that gives the technical support. Here is where we have the person that has the expertise in gender equality, is a member of the administration staff, and it's a permanent member. So even if the vice-rector changes, this person is permanent. Then we have the equality unit that has the vice-rector and the gender equality office member, and also 2-3 members of the teaching staff and the administration staff, and is the unit that meets in a regular way, designs the plan. Then the plan also counts with the participation of all the community, but it's the executive body that follows and monitors the situation. Then we have a gender equality committee, which is bigger and meets once or twice a year to monitor the plan, to approve the plan, etc. We have a network of equality officers in each school and research institute. We have one member of the direction board that is a member of this network. So this means that all the policies arrive to all the schools and faculties, and then these people also, they can share experiences, knowledge, and also they organize things and activities in their schools and faculties. And then linked with the gender equality plan, we define normally also gender equality strategic projects or key projects, and around these projects we have working groups. So together we have more or less 50 people that is involved in one way or another way, in a greater or lesser extent, with gender equality. So many people are involved and knowing that UPC is working in this way. The gender equality at the top level before 2007, that is when we designed the first gender equality plan. Equality was not an explicit responsibility of any vice rector or the rector. So the only thing is that this program, this woman program, was created, but it was working like independently almost. So non-vice rector had in his or her responsibilities taking care of equality. From 2007 and until 2019, gender equality was included as an explicit responsibility, but under different vice-rectorates, such as in one period we had the institutional relations vice-rectorate, in another period the academic policy vice-rector, another periods the international affairs vice-rectorate, which were the common points that normally were vice-rectorates that were in which there was a woman. So the rector, different rectors that we have had from 2007 to 2019, they were appointing one of the women of their team, no matter the vice-rectorate, one of the women to take care of gender equality. During these years, they did much work, but I think that the problem is that if you are a vice-rector of international affairs, your head is in international affairs, and then you have to have a part of your head thinking about gender equality, but it's not the same, of course, as having one people just worried about gender equality and in general equality issues. Then in 2019, the Vice-Rectorate for Social Responsibility and Equality was finally created. Here I say we managed to make gender equality be a priority of the rector and his team. So they would provide resources, both human and material, and human, one of the resources is the creation of this Vice-Rectorate. And also they started to support actively concrete actions, to participate, and we could say that the rector and his team started to go from words or good intentions to actions. The gender equality related functions of the vice-rector are the typical of these functions, so I will not stop here. And why did UPC created this position? From one side, I think that is the result of many years of the institution working on gender equality actions and plans, and many years of some internal activism. This means committed people that were pushing for gender equality. Also, it was favored by the context with the gender equality laws that we have in Spain, which are quite advanced. The society being more and more aware of gender equalities. Also, the rector and the people in the top management understand the consequences of gender inequalities. And apart from all this, and that of course, given this scenario, UPC had to show its commitment towards gender equality. It was also a more practical thing, a reaction to the increasing quantity of works on gender equality that needed to have a people supervising and being responsible of. And some of this was thanks to the GEECCO project, because the people that were working in the GEECCO project, like me, that I was the responsibility at UPC, we were pushing a lot, giving a lot of work and starting a lot of activities. So I mean, they had to create, I think that they had to create, they wanted, but they had to create this position of a vice rector that has as one of her main responsibilities the gender equality. And which are the key points at UPC? This is a summary of which are, in our opinion, the key points to reach the right weight at UPC for gender equality. From one side, the awareness raising and the capacity building, because you need people to be aware and to want to include gender dimension, to want to avoid gender biases, etc. But you need to give them trainings, because it's not an easy thing to do, and you know it. So you need to build capacity with trainings. You need to provide tools so they are able to implement the actions towards gender equality, to include gender dimension, etc. And one important piece has been institutional commitment. I have seen a big difference since the moment I saw the rector being really committed. I mean, not putting the gender equality in their election programs, and okay, we had always gender equality plans, but when I saw a real institutional commitment, I saw things start to change. It's also true that it's the result of many, many years working on gender equality, that at the end you reach a point and you see, oh, I start to be some changes. On the other hand, it's very important the gender equality organization at the university. You have to organize it, because otherwise you reach nowhere. The commitment of the community. We have many people involved in gender equality. This is very important. So we have to take care of the people being committed with gender equality and working on gender equality, because often they do it as a voluntary work, but we have to give some recognition, because otherwise this is not sustainable. And the last, to systematize the gender equality plan design and monitoring. And here we must thank our participation in the GEECCO project, because it gave us all these tools to work in a formalized and systematized way. And thank you for your attention. I leave you here my contact, also the link of a video. It's in English, in which we explain all this history regarding UPC and related to the GEECCO project. We have the 4th Gender Equality Plan in English in our website, and we have also a Gender Equality Observatory in which we can see different indicators by gender. This is in Catalan, but it's quite easy to understand with a translator. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amaya, and the other speakers for your enriching presentations. We have received one question in the chat. It's actually a question for the 3 speakers, so I propose we go in the same order. Maybe Heidi can answer first, then Esther, and finally Amaya. And the question, maybe you have read it in the meantime, it's how do you actually engage your leadership, your leaders? How do you make them aware, and how do you make them act and support the gender equality work? And are there maybe also suggestions or tips for what is to be avoided in that respect? So please, Heidi, can you give us a few of your suggestions?
Yes, very good questions. Thank you. I've been doing this work in different policy periods with different rectors and different supports. And from my experience, that's also what Amaya said. The very clear commitment of a rector is so important. Yeah, and if you don't have that commitment, it's really looking for other ways to get the support. And we have seen that it's typical university context, that clear monitoring and clear research, evidence-based, working on an evidence-based way, it's really important. So we have seen in the dialogues we had, trying to engage people who are resisting, let's say, that just by explaining the tendencies, by sharing data, and just really, yeah, taking a perspective from an analytic point of view, that it really works, because then you really objectivate it and you put it away from what they sometimes think is a kind of political point of view, or a women's point of view. So objectifying really works from my experience, and also explaining the why. Sometimes we really go immediately into actions and goals, but then facing resistance really also forces us to go back to the why, and really reflecting together on why are we doing this, why is this so important, what do we mean by inclusion, by equality, by equity. Also, just as Esther told us from her research, it's so important to work from very well-defined terminology and concepts in order to have a common understanding together on what we mean and why it's needed to work on gender equality. So that would be my suggestion. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Heidi. Then turning to Esther, and I have an additional question for you. It's maybe also related, because you are, as you said, quite alone in your position, and you are having many different hats, so quite a burden on your shoulders. What does that mean in terms of the engagement of the leadership, and how sustainable is your model with this situation?
Okay. Thanks a lot. It's not sustainable anymore. In fact, from September, I'll have a great team, the Center for Gender Studies, with will work as an equality center, maybe like the Barcelona one from the previous presentation. And but at the moment, I have a big endorsement from the rector, first of all, from the other top positions of the governance, for a very, I don't know the term, for a very specific reason, because at the moment we are designing our strategic plan for the next 3 years, and we are linked to the declaration of the integration of gender equality plan in our strategic plan in all departments, in all functions. So they are obliged to sustain my requests about in their specific departments or functions about gender equality. To answer to the previous request, in my opinion, the best strategy is to involve people personally, the rector or the general manager, with not only political, but also organizational and, if possible, scientific responsibility in European projects, for example, especially European, not only national or local, but especially European projects that deal with these issues. For example, through periodic internal and external audit procedures. For example, in Cagliari, the current rector was formerly part of the core team of SUPERA, as you know, maybe, Lut. And also for this reason, he was already very interested in including this issue, the topic of promoting gender equality, as a strong point of his electoral program, and now of his strategic plan. Furthermore, the more the gender equality plan or other plans about diversity or about intersectionality are integrated into the action policy plan of the university as a transversal, cross-sectional perspective, the higher the stakes are for the figures in top position who are bound to make it operational because they are assessed on this basis. So it's quite, I don't know, the evidence of the improvement of the situation to be used also to support the effectiveness of their action as a single top positions or as a university as a whole is also an excellent tool for evaluating oneself, but at the same time, as well as the university, in national and international rankings. And we need European or, for example, national funding. So in my opinion, this is a good reason to invest to sustain this strategic address on gender equality and intersectionality, to force them, to oblige them.
Thanks for sharing, Esther. Then finally, Amaya, please.
Yeah, well, I would say some things that have already said. So a very important thing is the evidence-based. So presenting the data, because, and especially in our case, which are a technological university, when you go with the data, I mean, well, you still have professors saying, okay, we have just 10% of girls, but what if they don't like informatics? Well, it's natural, but fortunately, with the time we have less people giving you this answer or this response. Maybe they think, but they don't say it in loud voice. So, but presenting, we actually were doing it in our annual meeting of the university, of the council, of the big council of the university. The data on women were presented every year, and I mean everybody was seeing that there was no improvement. So data is important, because when you show the data, I mean they must do something. Also, maybe for other universities, I mean, as an advice, show other cases that are close to you. I mean, look at this other university which are close to us, and they have already a vice-rector for equality, and we don't have one. Shouldn't we have one? And sometimes just to be like to be not the rare ones, I mean, they would go for it. But in our case, as I said, I mean, I think it's the result of many years of working. But now you have many universities having this role, and I think it's important that gender equality is an explicit responsibility of the rector and the team of some vice-rector, because if you don't have a top level and powerful position taking care of this, is very difficult to that the people do the things that they have. And what to avoid? Maybe don't relax, because don't think that okay, we have it, that's it, because when the things go worse, for example, from an economic point of view, gender equality is one of the first things that are forgotten. So don't relax. Ensure that budget is allocated to gender equality, and even though I think that once you reach a situation in which you have a vice-rector for equality, it's very difficult that another rector eliminates this. I mean, I think we will have this position for many years. And also train the leaders. Within GEECCO, with Yellow Window, we had a training for for top level, and the rector and his team attended this training, so they could also understand, because normally there are many people that hasn't have any knowledge on gender equality. So if you have the chance of training the top level in your projects, do it, because you will have the opportunity of opening their eyes and raising awareness. And I think I wouldn't repeat more things, but these are more or less some points at UPC. I don't know if there was another question for me.
We had a couple of other questions, but unfortunately we have come to the end of this session. We will ask the speakers maybe if they can answer in writing. We will send you the remaining questions, and then we will collect the written answers, and we can also share these with the with our audience of today. So thank you all very much for your attendance. Vasia will put in the chat box here an exit questionnaire. We would very much appreciate a couple of minutes of your time to provide us with your feedback and your impressions about today's session. The link will also be shared with you by email. So thanks again for your attendance. Thanks so much for the speakers, for their time and their precious informations and lessons learned. So we hope to see you again in the next session. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
All.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.